All right, welcome on in, everyone, to another episode of First CSP, the channel dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issued from each council in Scouting America, both past and present. Today, we're going to take a look at South Florida 84 out of Florida. This council was originally formed in 1945 as a name change from Dade County 84. We've got a number of CSPs to take a look at, some really fun stuff, looking through the history of the first issues and associated issues for South Florida, starting off with this patch from 1957, the TA 0.5, with its white cut edge border, red background, large yellow sun, white BSA, white letters. So this was produced in 1957 for the National Jamboree. It is technically a JSP, but as is sometimes the case with the pre-CSPs, it has been traditionally listed within the Council Shoulder Patch Collector's Guide, and again, it is listed as the TA 0.5. Does have its traditional gauze cloth backing, as was typical of those 1950s patches. This is pretty large, and we can look at it associated to the later CSPs here in a moment. It's probably one of my favorite patches from the collection. You don't find as many of these, although I have seen a few available recently. So it's not that you don't ever see them. They are out there to be added to collections of occasionally. But I grew up in Central Florida, came up through scouting in the Central Florida Council. So this picture of South Florida is very sentimental to me. It's probably one of my favorite patches. And it is one where the council over time has continued to pay tribute to this pre-CSP. And I wanted to take a little bit of time and look at those issues they've produced since that have essentially worked to honor this 1950s era patch. So we'll look at a couple of those, and then we'll go to the traditional regular CSPs that also came from the council. So the first one up that they did to honor that pre-CSP was in 1997, and that is labeled as their SA6. You can see they've basically taken the same style imagery and produced it in a modern CSP in 1997. This was, I believe, a Friends of Scouting issue. And they did the same thing in 1998, producing another Friends of Scouting issue. And this one is the SA9. Traditional plastic backs on those. They then did a series of patches in 2000 that all had different borders. So we have one of those just as kind of a representative issue. It looks a little bit more like a standard shape CSP, but again, it's the two crossing palm trees and the sun. They're doing that same style imagery, honoring that first patch. So this is the SA15. There are a number of these with different borders that had different numbers produced. But again, still harkening back to that 1950s patch. Then they're also for the 1993 Jamboree. We happen to pick this one up. This is a JSP. It's not listed in the Council Shoulder Patch collecting guides at all, so I don't have the JSP information for this one, but it was produced for the 1993 National Jamboree, again, with that same cross palm trees and sun, paying homage to the early patch there for the council. This one is plastic backed as well, but just a whole host of subsequent patches that the council has produced, again paying homage to that very first 1950s patch, which is very, very cool. Now the first regular or first CSP, I guess I should say, for the council is actually this S1. South Florida with the bird taking flight. It is defined with its orange border, gold background with orange clouds and sun, and black letters. This does look super bright for an orange. and occasionally these will be mislabeled as a red border. There is an S2 red border that exists. It was very limited in quantities, and so if you see something listed as a red border, the likelihood is that it's probably still just an S1 and that's just an orange border. There is a website called Florida CSP. I will link to that in the description. And what you will see is on the S2 and a bunch of prototypes that were also made with different color borders, the feathering here does not have the amount of detail. It has a whole lot less black stripes, so it looks a lot thinner. That's one of the best ways to discern that you have an S2. Also, these clouds are not dark, they're gold. So they really fade into the background on the red border S2. We actually have two different S1s. They, I'm sure, did a ton of production runs. You will find slight differences in, say, how this orange from the sun over the water is presenting and kind of the coloration there. Obviously, some spacing on the lettering to the borders. You'll just find a little bit of differences between these production runs, but both of these are cloth-backed S1s. I just believe that they happened from potentially different production runs. I will note that there's slight color variations between these two. One kind of looks almost a little more red. These are both still just considered orange border S1s. So then they did have the S2 with the red border. If you'd like to see at least an image of that, I will have linked below the Florida CSP website, which will get you to the image of those as well as all those prototypes. They at least have the images for them, which is really nice. And then came the S3, where they went ahead and added the fleur-de-lis. So orange border, gold background with orange clouds and sun, orange fleur-de-lis, black letters. And then after that, they changed the design. Now, the one thing they also did a little bit later was they ran a series that were ghost patches that, again, were set to pay tribute to the former patches. And so they did a ghosted out red edition, which was pretty cool. So obviously this is paying homage to the very first patch we showed. This is the SA10. Then in white, they did what would be essentially a red and white for South Florida. This is the SA11. And then in all blue, they did the tribute to their S1. So this is the SA12. These were done as a set, I believe, as a fundraiser, and I believe they originally came with some paper documentation. By the time they were added to our collection, we don't have that paper documentation that came with it. But a really cool red, white, and blue set that has the red paying homage to the pre-CSP and the all blue paying homage to the S1. Just really, really cool. I think we'll finish out, because it's my favorite, putting that TA 0.5 back up for South Florida. Just a really cool patch. Definitely one of my personal favorites. Again, being biased that I grew up in the state of Florida, I don't live there anymore, and so this reminds me of that, and I think it's really cool. It's one of the ways I think that collecting and these patches can help, ties to places we've been, people we've met, our history is youth in scouting and whatnot. And if you're not a collector, find some small subset of the collecting world and have some fun. There's lots of arenas that you can get into that don't necessarily have to be particularly expensive, and you don't have to try and shoot for big, expansive sets. You can find little subsets of things that you enjoy, and I would really highly recommend, if you're not a collector, to think about it. If you have questions about collecting or anything along those lines in general, throw them in the comments. We have a whole host of viewers that are always here that are very experienced collectors, I certainly would be happy to help answer questions, whether in the comments or producing like a Sunday special to field questions that people have submitted. Happy to do that. We're back every single day with brand new episodes, and we'll be back tomorrow with another new episode for First CSP. I want to thank you all for taking a small bit of your day and joining us here on the channel. We hope that you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, we'll catch you soon.